Hey fam, welcome back to the channel. Alright, as you can see, we are out here at the Micro Mini today, which is helpfully parked at my brother's house. And I am here to continue working on tearing out the inverter battery power system that I had installed in this thing for the previous plan of nomading around and being just camping all the time, off-grid and stuff. And I don't think I ever did a full video tour of the Micro Mini's power system for you guys. I know I put out a couple of shorts while I was building it out, but I don't think I ever told you exactly what I had installed and why and where everything went. So I thought that I would make a quick video because I am here to start tearing it apart. Now, I did already do some work on the trailer last weekend or the weekend before, I can't remember. But I already tore out the inside portion of the power system, so everything is redone on the inside. The trailer is back to being OEM the way it came from the factory, except for the solar charge controller, which is what I'm here to do today, is to get the factory solar charge controller rewired back in instead of being bypassed like I had it. So yeah, I've already done some work on the inside, so I will insert those clips of what I already did to take the inside portions out here, and then I will show you what is in the pass-through and how everything was set up. Alright, hopefully you guys can see, you should be able to hear, the furnace is just right off to the left in that little cavity there. But this opening is right beneath the stove. So this is the stove in the kitchen area, and there's normally a drawer right here. But right behind this lower panel right here is the OEM converter box where all the fuses and circuit breakers are. And so what we need to do is, if you see this big orange wire right here, this is 10-3 wire. And there is one that comes down from the bottom there that is coming in from the plug on the side of the trailer, and then it's going into this splice box. And then inside the box there's a connection. Let's see if I can pull it out for you guys. Yeah, so you see these white AC wires right here. So it comes in from the side of the trailer into this box, and then out that way to the inverter, and then from the inverter it comes back into the box and then into the OEM converter box here. So basically all I need to do is I need to remove this wire right here from the box, and then take this wire and stick it back in the box, so that way the 30 amp power goes straight into the OEM converter box. So that's what I'm going to be doing first. Unfortunately, there's not really a good place for me to set you guys up so that I could like time lapse this or something. So I will just show this to you guys when I'm done. Okay, so this little red bus bar right here is where the OEM battery disconnect switch is, or was, before I took it out. That's what those extra holes are there. So this big power cable on the bottom is what goes over to the Lynx distributor bus bar that I have over there that ties the trailer 12-volt system into my big battery bank here. And then one of these cables, of these top two, goes into the trailer and into the converter panel. And the other one heads out to the little bus bar on the trailer tongue by where the factory battery location is. So I'm going to turn off the batteries for the big power system here, and then swap this all back over to the OEM cutoff switch, and that will isolate the trailer's electrical system from my Victron system. Alright, so here is the pass-through for the Micro Mini, and let's start with the batteries that I have strapped down right there. So I have two 200 amp hour Li-time, however you want to pronounce it, self-heating batteries. These do not have Bluetooth, so I actually don't know how much charge they have because there's no Bluetooth, so there's no way to monitor how much power they're using to heat themselves. which is one reason why I'm going to be upgrading to the Vautier, however you want to pronounce it, smart self-heated batteries. So that way I can Bluetooth into them to know for sure how much power they have. But this is what I've got in the Mini right now. I am going to be hauling these back up to Alaska with me and seeing if I can flip them to get some of my money back to somebody in Alaska that might need these. Yeah, two 200 amp hour, 12 volt self-heated Li Time batteries are what I had in the Micro Mini here. Okay, so for the inverter, I have a Victron Multiplus 2 12 volt 3000 volt amp inverter charger. So this thing is not a 3000 watt. It ends up 3000 volt amps, I think, ends up being about 2800 watts, I think, of output. So this thing is tough enough with these two 200 amp BMS batteries here to run the microwave. It's able to run the air conditioner on low and any AC loads that I really had. So this thing is pretty sweet, and it did a good job. All right, so you can see my two batteries here I have wired in parallel. So I have positives to positives and negatives to negatives. And then positive going in one battery and out the other. So that way they discharge and charge evenly. A 2 battery bank is not as critical for that, but that's still the system that you want. You want to come in one end of your battery bank and out the other. You don't want to have the ins and outs on the same battery and then have more batteries further down the chain, because they will eventually get off of each other. You're not going to have even draw from your battery bank if you have the positive and negative coming out of a single battery. So positive on one battery, negative on the other. And you can see down here, the positive goes through this 400 amp A&L fuse that I have here. And then there's a Blue C cutoff switch, and then I have a Victron Lynx power in distribution block that I did the modification for so that it can hold fuses. And then the negative, it comes out of the Lynx power in here and then goes through a Victron Smart Shunt and then out that negative cable and then off to the batteries. And these are 4/0, so 40. Copper welding cable, and they did a pretty good job. All right, so this is my Lynx power in bus bar that I modified to hold fuses, and it saved me a few bucks over getting the Lynx distributor. So the only thing that I'm missing is little lights to tell me if a fuse is blown, but otherwise this thing is pretty sweet. It's got, like I said, it's holding fuses in there, so every wire run that's going in and out of there is fused. You can see here I've got more 4/0 cable going from the Lynx power in into the Multiplus. Now Victron in their documentation wants you to use two 1/0 cables to go from the Lynx, but with such a limited space that I have here, I only had room for one of these Lynx power ins or Lynx distributors, so I went with a single 4/0 cable. So this was fine, especially since the run is so short, and this is a common thing for people to do with the Multiplus. But when I move this into a new trailer, I am gonna go to two 1/0 cables instead of a single 4/0 cable. And I actually already have another Lynx power in that I purchased for the new trailer. So I'll have two of them. But yeah, all the connections, all the 12 volt connections are going in and out of here. So you've got the connection for the inverter. You've got these cables right here are what tied in this battery system to the trailer's OEM 12 volt system. And then you've got one solar charge controller here. And then I forget where the other one is going. Oh, so you got one of these is the solar charge controller, and the other one is an additional 12 volt fuse block that I'll show you here in a minute. And then I've got another solar charge controller coming in on the top right here. So yeah, that's the Lynx power in. It's pretty nice. And like I said, I've got a second one, so I'll have two of these in whatever new trailer I end up with. So the last thing I've got over here is the power in and power out of the inverter for the 120 volt system. So you can see here I've got two 10-3 marine grade, pretty flexible actually, AC wiring going into and out of the multiplus. So one of these is input from shore power and the other one is output that I had wired into the trailer's 120 volt system. So this AC wiring came over here and then dropped down, and then actually I fed it through a gap. I don't know if you guys will be able to see it. Through this hole right here, I fished it, and that goes under the furnace, and then I was able to connect it to the converter box that's got the AC breakers and stuff in it under there. And that's also where the shore power plug from the other side of the trailer comes in. And that is where this little splice box came from. And if I haven't spliced in the clip of me removing it and kind of explaining it already, then I will do that now. But to sum up, shore power came in this side from the plug on the side of the trailer and then out this end. So one of these cables came out of here and then went into the multiplus and then out of the multiplus back underneath the furnace, and then in this side where it says inverter power, and then this right here I had plugged into and connected to the main circuit breaker on the converter panel inside the trailer. So that's what allowed the multiplus to power all of the AC loads in the trailer. Now a lot of trailers are inverter prepped, so this Micro Mini was inverter prepped. That's what this bundle of black wiring is right here. But basically what that is all of the regular house plugs that are in the trailer. I think there's 4 or 5 maybe. There might only be 4. But it's just the empty house plugs. And so most RV inverter prep systems are not meant to power like the air conditioner and stuff or the microwave. The inverters will only power a few of the outlets, a few of the household outlets inside of the trailer. And so I didn't use that system at all. Instead, I used this splice box to just power the entire AC panel inside the trailer with the inverter. So that way I was able to power the microwave and the air conditioner and stuff like that. Worked out pretty well, and I'll be reusing this in my next trailer. Okay, so we're going to continue on this wall right here where you see I've got 2 Victron Smart Solar Charge Controllers. This one right here is a 100 volt 50 amps, so this can take up to 100 volts in and it will output up to 50 amps. This is what I used for the 3 solar panels that are on the roof. I have 600 watts of solar wired in series on the roof. So that came down from the roof over here actually. So the wiring comes down from the roof and then goes in behind. This is the OEM Go Power solar charge controller. And so I just took that out. You can see here I drilled a little hole and stole the wiring, which then runs all the way up and around and then into, sorry to swing you guys around so much, into this cutoff switch box here. So I've got one DC breaker for the roof and then another DC breaker for the solar on the side plug that goes to this smaller 15 amp solar charge controller. So yeah, the roof wiring goes in here, which I stole from back there, and that's what I'm going to be reverting today. And then it comes out of there and then into the Smart Solar Charge Controller, and then out of the Smart Solar Charge Controller, up and over and around, and then into the Lynx power in, where there's a fuse there. And then these other things on this wall here is this is a Raspberry Pi. So Victron sells a couple of different monitoring solutions so you can kind of keep track of what your whole system is doing, what these things are doing, what the inverter is doing, the smart shunt, etc. You can get a Servo GX. There's an all-in-one like touch panel thing, but I already had this Raspberry Pi, and Victron actually allows you to install their monitoring software on a Raspberry Pi. So that's what I did. So you can see I've got a ton of stuff here plugged in via USB. So everything that's blue from Victron, so this cable right here for this solar charge controller, this cable right here for this solar charge controller, this Ethernet adapter with this Ethernet cable, this blue one right here goes into the inverter, and then there's this cable right here is what's coming from the smart shunt, and everything gets plugged into the Raspberry Pi, And then I have an Android tablet, which you guys may have remembered I lost my first one in the Alaska Highway video last year. So I've got a new Android tablet, but basically it just runs a Victron app that can talk to the Raspberry Pi here and then give me a display of everything that's going on with this whole system. And I can control a lot of it just from the tablet, which is really sweet. And then the last couple of things that I've got going on over here are I have this auxiliary Blue Sea Systems 6-circuit fuse block here. You see I've got a few labels on there. So I actually have a permanent mount for my Starlink, and this is a DC power brick for the Starlink. So that was plugged into here with this cable right here. Just straight via 12 volt, which is super awesome. This DC power brick, this is an official Starlink accessory. It can take anywhere from 12 to 52 volts. So you can hardwire this into pretty much any DC power system you have running in your trailer or your off-grid property. So works really well. And then I have two more circuits here. This one right here runs to a like 12 volt cigarette lighter port that I have under the bed inside the trailer. And then also right next to that 12 volt port, I have a USB Type A and Type C port. So I could charge things on the other side of the bed. So that's what those two circuits are. And then this one right here actually powers the Raspberry Pi. So that's what this switch is to turn the Raspberry Pi off and on, which goes to this USB port, which then powers the Raspberry Pi right there. So pretty handy. I had plans to add a couple more circuits to that, but I never got around to it. So I will repurpose all of this into my new trailer. And then the last thing is, you can see there's a shiny new hole right here with this Ethernet cable. This comes out to the side of the trailer for this smart plug data port. You can see I have a plug right there. So that's what I powered the Starlink off of the few times that I used it, and it works great. So actually this is going to stay on the trailer. I have a new smart plug data port to install on whatever new trailer I get. And then lastly, over here is where I had everything tied into the trailer's OEM 12 volt power system. So this is the battery. It's not really a battery disconnect, but it is a disconnect. So this will disconnect the battery from the panel that's on the inside of the trailer. So I had replaced that with just a bus bar. And so this right here is the positive cable that ran from the bus bar that I had here over to the links over there. And that's what tied my inverter big battery system into the trailer's 12 volt battery or 12 volt power system. So I've already torn that out, and these lights that are actually in here right now are running off of a battery that I put back on the tongue of the trailer. So this has all been restored. I just had to go get some longer screws to be able to screw this back in with its little box right down here, which I brought with me today. So that's something that I'm going to do today, is reattach that switch to the trailer, and then everything will be done. So that was the last piece of it. Anyway, I'm pretty proud of how this inverter power system ended up working out, even though I was parked at Bill's house all summer long. So I didn't really need it. It was nice because the power grid actually went out a few times at Bill's house. Not his fault, it's just the power. The power grid in Alaska can be unreliable sometimes. And so it was nice to have the inverter power system, and it was nice on the trip up, as you guys saw in the videos for the trip up. And it'll be nice to move it to a new trailer for camping on my property this summer. So I'm going to get started rewiring the OEM solar charge controller so that it can pull power from the 3 roof panels, and that's what I'm going to get done today. So thanks for watching this little tour of my trailer's power system. Hope you guys found it interesting. Let me know if you have any questions. I like this kind of thing. It was kind of fun to piece this together, and I'm having fun redesigning it for my new trailer. So once again, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. Hit that thumbs up if you liked the video. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Share this video with any friends that you might want to share it to, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.